Episode 5 of The Residence begins with a young boy approaching Cordelia across the White House grounds. He reveals that, around the time of A.B. Wynter's murder, he had seen a blinking red light coming from room 301, the renovation room. This detail raises further suspicion, hinting that something significant occurred in that room during the night of the murder. In the present-day Senate hearing, Jasmine Haney provides more context about the disastrous state dinner. She elaborates on Lily Schumacher's poor management, mentioning how the event was so poorly planned that the scheduled performer cancelled at the last minute. In a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, Wynter had asked a celebrity guest to perform, offering a stay at the Lincoln bedroom in exchange. This further emphasizes the chaos that surrounded the evening and the strained relationships within the White House. As the investigation continues, Cordelia interviews everyone who had stayed on the third floor that night. Harry Hollinger, the president's friend and chief advisor, claims to know nothing useful. Mrs. Cox, the president's mother-in-law, recalls hearing someone yelling outside her room, but she cannot identify who it was. Tripp, the president's brother, denies any knowledge of significance, but his actions raise suspicion. Cordelia soon uncovers more about Tripp's role at the White House. He had become a major nuisance, placed there by his brother, President Barry, due to his involvement in multiple scandals. On the night of the state dinner, Tripp had been excluded from attending and, as a result, took his frustration out on Wynter. Their relationship had already been strained, with Tripp hoarding White House artifacts in his room, irritating Wynter, who had always maintained a strict code of order within the residence. These tensions provide a possible motive for Tripp to be involved in the murder. Cordelia also discovers that two uninvited guests had managed to infiltrate the state dinner, which raises alarms about the security lapses at the White House. She instructs the staff to recheck all guest identities, ensuring no further intruders had entered the premises during the event. Through Jasmine, Cordelia learns more about the strained relationship between Wynter and Harry Hollinger. Apparently, Wynter had overheard Harry and other executives discussing sensitive diplomatic matters. Though staff were trained not to eavesdrop, Harry accused Wynter of spying on the conversation, a claim that Wynter denied. Despite his defense, Harry's reaction had been unusually aggressive, and this event adds to the mounting tension surrounding his involvement. As the investigation progresses, suspicion begins to shift toward Harry. The carpenter who had been working at the White House had seen Harry leaving via the pathway near Wynter's office. Additionally, someone was overheard arguing with Wynter shortly before his death, and Harry had been seen rifling through Wynter's office after the murder, allegedly looking for political documents. These actions further suggest that Harry might have had a motive to silence Wynter. The episode ends ominously when a senator at the hearing points out the glaring absence of Cordelia Cup, the lead investigator, from the proceedings. This comment adds a sense of unease, suggesting that Cordelia's involvement in the investigation may be drawing unwanted attention, and that the truth may be far more complicated than anyone initially imagined. The growing suspicions around Harry, combined with Cordelia's absence, leave viewers eagerly awaiting the next revelation in this tangled mystery. Episode 6 of The Residence opens with an unknown woman trekking through the forests of Ecuador to reach Cordelia Cup, who is living off the grid in a treehouse. Cordelia is there to sight a rare bird, but the woman has other plans. She leaves Cordelia some supplies, along with a briefcase containing a satellite phone and a tablet, which was sent by Edwin. Cordelia uses the tablet to watch the ongoing Senate hearing, where the mystery of the third man is the main topic of discussion. Back at the Senate, Harry Hollinger is becoming increasingly agitated as the hearing spirals out of control. He tries to pressure the Senate chairperson into smoothing things over, but his efforts seem to be falling apart. Meanwhile, in a flashback to the night of the murder, Cordelia is investigating the White House. She discovers bloodstains in the Lincoln bedroom on the second floor, which leads her to check the nearby rooms, including the yellow oval room. With Jasmine Haney's help, they uncover a hidden staff staircase that leads to the third floor, raising further questions about what happened that night. The investigation reveals the existence of another uninvited guest at the state dinner, referred to as the third man. Cordelia traces this individual's movements throughout the evening and learns that he had been seated next to the Australian industrialist during the dinner. This new development adds more complexity to the case, as the third man's role in the events of the night becomes a focal point. In the present day, after the Senate hearing adjourns, the Senate chairperson privately approaches Senator Bix, one of the fiercest critics of the administration. The chairperson tries to convince her to drop the case, but Senator Bix refuses. She presents her theory, suggesting that the Australian industrialist, who had been seen speaking to Harry on the night of the dinner, hired the third man to kill Wynter after Wynter accidentally overheard their conversation about their political advancements. This theory adds a new layer to the investigation, linking political intrigue and personal motives to the murder. Returning to the White House flashback, Cordelia begins to consider this theory. David, the Australian representative, confirms that the industrialist is indeed capable of such actions. However, Cordelia faces resistance from the White House executives when trying to get them to acknowledge the situation. Edward, one of the higher-ups, interrupts, suggesting the possibility that Wynter may have committed suicide. Cordelia realizes that pushing the case further could cost the police chief his job, so she decides to step back from the investigation for a while. In the present day, Senator Bix takes a bold step by publicly issuing a statement offering full immunity to the third man in exchange for telling his side of the story. Soon after, the third man arrives at the hearing, attempting to bluff his way out of the situation. However, Cordelia, watching the hearing remotely, sends specific questions to the judge through Edwin, forcing the third man to confront the truth under pressure. Finally, the third man confesses. He reveals that he is a salesperson who accidentally gained access to the White House after tagging along with the drunk Australian representatives. While wandering the halls in search of a bathroom, he witnessed someone dragging a body out of the yellow oval room, confirming that there was indeed more to the night than anyone had initially thought. The episode ends on this chilling revelation, leaving viewers eager to see how Cordelia will now proceed with this new information. Episode 7 of The Residence opens with a flashback of Elsie, the housekeeper, going through her routine life as a mother. She drops off her daughter before heading to the White House for the state dinner, a moment that helps humanize her character before the mystery intensifies. In the present timeline, after the chaos surrounding the third man theory, Cordelia returns to the White House and meets with Harry. He insists that she see the case through and grants her full access to the White House to prevent further gossip and stabilize the government's image. This marks a pivotal moment in the investigation, as Cordelia is now officially in the thick of it, with the stakes higher than ever. Upon returning to the White House, Cordelia notices significant changes due to Lily's renovations. The rooms look different, and the atmosphere is noticeably tense. Jasmine, now acting as the new chief usher in place of Wynter, is settling into her new role. Cordelia revisits Wynter's office, and during her search, she discovers a set of keys in Wynter's pocket that don't belong to him. Jasmine immediately recognizes them as belonging to Bruce, the White House's longtime engineer, which sends Cordelia on a new lead. Cordelia interviews Bruce, and he confirms the keys are his. Through conversations with other staff members, Cordelia learns that Bruce had a complicated relationship with Wynter. Bruce had managed to install a new hot water system in the aging White House to meet the president's demands, but Wynter failed to acknowledge his efforts, leaving Bruce feeling unappreciated. To make matters worse, Tripp often made life difficult for Bruce, blaming him for minor issues like clogged toilets and generally treating him poorly. During the interview, Bruce admits he was present in the yellow oval room the night Wynter died. He was there checking the ceilings to prevent potential issues due to Tripp's habit of flushing salt down the toilets. He recalls seeing Lily that evening and notes that she appeared unusually anxious, which adds another layer of mystery to the case. The police chief informs Cordelia and Edwin about Lily's ambitious plan to completely redesign and restructure the White House. In this context, Elsie is brought up, with staff members describing her as one of the most beloved figures in the residence. This contrast between Elsie's public image and her potential involvement in the case deepens the intrigue. Elsie, in her interview, opens up about a confrontation she had with Wynter. It turns out that Wynter had discovered her criminal background, something she had kept hidden, and had confronted her harshly. The argument escalated, and Elsie became upset, retreating into a closet. It was there that she encountered Bruce. In the heat of the moment, Elsie confided in Bruce, telling him she might kill him. Bruce's version of events is different. He claims that after leaving Elsie in the closet, he returned to the scene a few minutes later and saw Elsie leaving the room with a candlestick, with Wynter lying dead on the ground. Elsie, however, offers a different account. She says that when she stepped out of the closet, she found Wynter already dead and panicked. She feared that Bruce might be the killer, so she fled the scene with the candlestick. Further investigation uncovers that Bruce and Elsie were romantically involved. The keyring found on Wynter was actually a gift from Elsie to Bruce, and it even matches a necklace Bruce had previously given her. This discovery complicates the situation, adding a personal motive to the already tangled web of events. As the episode closes, Cordelia stands in the yellow oval room, reflecting on all the differing perspectives and trying to piece together the puzzle. Despite their matching testimonies, there's still something off, one last missing piece that she hasn't yet uncovered. The episode ends with Cordelia deep in thought, determined to find the truth, knowing she's closer but still not there yet. Episode 8 of The Residence opens with a flashback to a tender moment between Wynter and his only friend, Angie, as they play backgammon in the White House. During this scene, we learn of Wynter's tragic backstory, losing his parents at a young age and coming to consider the staff as his family. Despite this, the episode quickly reminds us of Wynter's deeply unpleasant personality, as almost everyone around him harbors some degree of dislike toward him. In the present timeline, Cordelia continues her investigation into Wynter's death, focusing on the yellow oval room. She notes that a vase is missing and later discovers from the curator that a clock is also unaccounted for. This leads her to recall noticing deteriorated roses in the room the day of the incident. Consulting the florist, she learns that no industrial pesticide capable of killing the flowers had been used, but when Cordelia checks the garden room, she finds that pesticide was indeed kept there. As Cordelia spends more time investigating, she attempts to locate the missing clock but cannot find it. She uncovers a personal conflict between Jasmine and Wynter, revealing that Jasmine had clashed with him after he refused to retire, a decision that upset her, as she was hoping to be promoted to the position of chief usher. Later, Cordelia locates Wynter's journal in the library, his favorite place in the White House. The journal is filled with cryptic numbers and scribbled notes that seem significant. This discovery prompts her to realize that the positioning of the paintings in the yellow oval room had changed, and she deduces how Wynter was killed. However, at the closed Senate hearing, she admits that she still doesn't know who the killer is. Cordelia gathers all the staff members connected to Wynter's death and presents her findings. She confirms that Wynter wasn't killed in the game room but was dragged there. The third man, a key witness, saw someone dragging the body. She then takes the staff to room 301 where fresh bloodstains are found, and a detail from a child across the street, a blinking red light from Tripp's watch, helps connect the dots. Through her investigation, Cordelia learns that Tripp had been drinking heavily and, upon waking, found Wynter dead in room 301. In a panic, he dragged the body to the game room, where he encountered Sheila. She was drunk and didn't recognize him. Tripp then painted over the bloodstains, pocketed a set of keys, and found a suicide note. Using Didier's knife, he slit Wynter's wrists to stage the scene and then left. Cordelia proposes that the body was briefly moved to the Lincoln bedroom by whoever dragged it upstairs from the yellow oval room, which explains the bloodstains there. Suspicion then shifts to Bruce and Elsie. Cordelia questions the presence of a fourth person during their encounter with Wynter's body and discovers a hidden door, sealed after renovations, through which Bruce had entered while fixing a clog. When she asks who sealed the door, suspicion turns to Jasmine, who claims it was Elliot's order. Elliot denies this, and amidst the tension, Lily tearfully confesses that she was the one who sealed it, impersonating Elliot. She reveals that both Elsie and Bruce had moved the body and that she had orchestrated the concealment to protect them. At this moment, Edward mutters the word blink, signaling that Lily had slipped up. Cordelia then breaks open the hidden door and discovers the murder weapon, the large clock. With all the pieces in place, Cordelia lays out the entire case. Lily, who had long harbored disdain for the White House as an institution, had been seeking to dismantle it by firing staff and making questionable renovations. Wynter, who genuinely loved the house, stood in her way. Cordelia accuses Lily of embezzling funds, which Wynter had discovered, and explains that the numbers in his journal correspond to the illegal activities she had been involved in. Cordelia walks the group through the events. Lily had argued with Wynter in his office, tried to snatch his journal but only tore out one page, which she later crafted into a suicide note. She then called Wynter to meet her under the guise of apologizing, mixed poison in his drink, and served it to him. Realizing that Wynter had been poisoned, he dropped the liquid on the roses. Unsure if the dose was enough, Lily threw a vase at him, scratching his face, and finished him off with the clock. She then hid the clock between the rooms, orchestrating a cover-up with the help of Elsie and Bruce. Cordelia also reveals how she caught Lily. Lily had claimed to see Elsie and Wynter fighting from the hall, but everyone knew that Wynter handled his matters privately. The only way Lily could have witnessed the fight was if she'd been inside, watching from the family living room next to the yellow oval room, where she had mixed the poison. With the case finally solved, Cordelia closes the investigation and heads off to her next birdwatching session, a quiet moment to reflect after the chaos. The episode ends with Cordelia's satisfaction at having uncovered the truth, though the cost of that truth has been high.